The following is a fan-based discussion. All properties discussed are property of Toei Inc., Bandai, Hasbro, and Subaru Productions. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Tokutalk. Marcus and Jacob here. Today we are going to be discussing debuts of characters, forms, mechs, etc., outside of the main team. We have talked about the main stuff in past videos, but time for a refresh, I believe.
Yeah.
So, where would you like to start?
I want to start with the writers.
Okay.
Like forums and stuff. So there's things that have really stood out to me. I think a more recent one would end up being Geets and Mark 9.
For sure.
And Stop the Music, because how dare he? But he's also basically at that point God. So that is a big something of itself. And I just love how cool that was. I love a cool factor when it ends up coming to a debut. I'm gonna jump all over the place, but I can't do that. Time Fire.
Okay.
When he first shows up, he gets one of the coolest intros because he's just so far away. You can see that he's just that, separate from the team proper. Him being on top of I think a crane and hitting his wrist with his gun. And then his theme starts. How dare he? The theme is just too cool. Time Fire. Time Fire!
As far as the way these things tend to debut, I think it has changed significantly in the last year with the introduction of one, Mr. Jeremy Brassier.
Where he was there the entire time.
He was there the entire time. I said this in our review. Jeremy is the first Sixth Ranger, in my opinion, to feel like he is a member of the family from the moment he joins to the end of the show.
Yeah.
It never feels like our 5 heroes or 3 heroes and our Sixth Ranger. He's never like, oh, I am here as well. It's just, no, he's there because he's part of the family.
Yeah. Which, sort of...
And I think tying that into his debut, the way he is introduced as this masked figure, the king, the one of legend, the missing king.
The storyteller.
The storyteller, because the way they've been using him as the narrator up to that point, I think is a brilliant little plot device. And then when we finally get to see him in person, we see the power that he has. We see how it is that he's trying to work his way into the story and weave his own tale.
Yeah.
As a spider weaves its web. And I think very well done.
Yeah. It's just, he's too good. He's too good for this world. Something right here. I love this debut for Delta Mega. And the combination in Mega Ranger. I just love Mega Ranger in general. But I love this mech debut because it sort of happens by accident. Where he ends up pressing the 3 and they end up combining. And bam. We end up getting my favorite mech, and that's why I bought it. It's still probably my favorite mech in all of Sentai.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, I love this one. It's too good. I'm not the biggest fan of the second one, and that's mostly because of Pink's mech being the feet, and it looks stupid. But these two together is just a really good color combination, and I love just how a lot of the debuts especially, they make them really powerful at the beginning, and they're probably going to tuning them down later. Sort of like what they did to Zero of the World, where he came out and just beat the hell out of everybody, but then anxiety hit him.
Jeez. That was awful.
Yeah, that anxiety.
That whole
hard
show, that storyline, not good.
I like that he acknowledges it later on, but it's like in his debut as a rival versus his debut as an actual person.
There seem to be, when it comes to Six Rangers, secondary riders, when it comes to their debuts, there seem to be one of 2 ways you can do it. As a mysterious ally who shows up, or as a rival. It'll be one of those 2, or some variation of that. It'll be like, this character, we might have seen them before, we might not have seen them before, out of suit, but it's like, who is this person who has come to aid me in my quest to defeat evil? And then, sure enough, they show up at an opportune time, and here they are.
Or even somebody who's showing up first. I'm not saying that for, Jeremy, but, we do have Don Momotaro up here, and the person who showed up first in his show was Sonoi. Sonoi shows up first before anybody else in this show. And, he doesn't become an actual Dawn Brother until much later after he becomes Taro's boyfriend. It's a thing that happened. Yeah.
But yeah, they tend to be introduced as either rivals or a new addition to the cast that like we hadn't seen up to that point.
Yeah.
In the case of something like Zenkaiger, when we have two Kaiser show up for the first time,
early,
there's a fight going on
right after him and Stacy.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the way they introduce him as well as like his full introduction, where he comes down and he's dancing and singing, and everyone is just like, "I'm sorry, who are you?"
Meanwhile,
didn't you hear? He's a Kaizoku.
Meanwhile, I clapped. I did.
I clapped when I saw it.
I saw the dance and I said,
"It's stuff."
It's so good. Some of my other favorite ones, I personally do love Geki Violet. It says he turns up as that werewolf monster at the beginning. And then turns into, it's his brother. And then he ends up having his whole Muay Thai boxing arena fight. Such a good intro for him. And the fact that they actually set up the story like a good 1 to 2 episodes before that. I do really prefer when they actually lead into a new ranger or a new writer or what have you, new mech, where there's actual lead up to it and it doesn't just happen. It's not encapsulated into one episode. It's
not just like, here's an episode at the beginning of the episode, maybe something non-related, something maybe related to the monster of the week will happen.
Yeah.
And then our sixth ranger will show up, or a secondary rider, what have you, will show up. And then it's like, but you don't know me yet. It's like they almost kind of break the fourth wall, and they'll be talking to like an NPC essentially, and saying, hello, good day. You don't know me yet, but you will soon. And then off they walk, and the camera kind of like holds and like it goes into slow motion on them as they're walking towards the camera. Like it's a shot we are familiar with.
Or even somebody like Uchi from Kyoryuger when he first shows up in the armor, because he's trapped inside Dogold's armor that pretty much entire time. And then somebody like Star Ninja, who shows up at the end of like 2 episodes before he actually shows up in the show proper. He beats a monster and then leaves.
As far as mechs go, there really only seems to be one way that they know how to introduce new forms of mechs, and that is, this monster is too powerful. What do we do? I know. We shall use this mech that we hitherto have not had. And they do.
I will say there are some exceptions.
There are some exceptions, and I want to get to one in particular.
I have one as well. You do yours first.
It's the castle mech from King Oger.
Yes, that was a very good one.
I have to shout this one out in particular because it's the best introduction a mech has ever had. I certainly think it is.
I will say it's up there with mine.
Okay. Do you want me to talk a little bit about mine? Then okay. So, as I was saying, it's usually like, this monster is too strong. We just needed it. We get another form somehow. There's like another dinosaur. There's another ship. There's another ship with googly eyes, whatever. That we have to, combine onto ours. Now it's bigger. Now it has more firepower. Boom. Here we go. King Oger with the castle. The build up to it of this is this ancient machine of legend, this giant machine of overwhelming power that can be used to stop Death Narok. And then we meet the person who is in charge of like maintenance and the guy who designs all their tech, who has been like living in a basement off of candy for years, so he's like a weirdo.
Yeah.
And you get like an interesting character moment with him. And then beyond,
especially
and
if
then
you watch the Rackley special.
Yes, and then after that, it's like, okay, so we have to activate it in time to save us from death blows, and it doesn't work. All the gears are all rusted, and there's things falling apart. There's parts missing. It hasn't been transformed in over 1,000 years, and they treat it like an actual machine. So Gira makes his plea to the people: bring every single gear and spring you can find. We're going to shove it in this thing, and we're going to make it work. And the whole kingdom comes together, and they do. And they make it work. They make the mech work. They make it come together.
Tim Gunn shows up. Make it work.
Anyway. So anyway, they come together, they make it work, as Marcus has so eloquently pointed out. And then we get the transformation. We activate it, we get that transformation, we get that incredible score with the strings, da 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 da, and it's great. And we get that transformation. We're able to beat the bad guy, and that whole build-up and everything feels so earned. And then after that, we get more payoff. It's not just like because in most mech fights, the way they end, dating back since I would say like before Dawn Brothers, I guess I would say. I mean, even Dawn Brothers to an extent is like we do our finisher, monster is dead, kaiju is defeated, and then we kind of turn and face the camera. There's a big explosion behind us, and then like that's the end of the scene. The way King Oger continues to pay it off with Gira, you're all cogs, you're all gears, and then all of the citizens of his kingdom get really mad at him, justifiably so, but then he runs down to the crowd and is like, wait, that's not what I meant. None of this would have happened if every single one of you wasn't here. Thank you. That's what I meant when I said you're all cogs. We're all cogs working together to make the machine move. And they hoist him up in victory, and it's a great little celebration moment. And that's when the episode ends. It's not just like, we don't just cut back to the base and everyone, well, good thing we beat the bad guy, do. And it's a lot, and because that's usually how they end after the giant monster is vanquished. And now, no, we actually have to have more. We don't have to have, but like they chose and they wrote, we're going to have more character stuff here. We're going to deepen the bonds. We're going to show how Gira is changing as a king and a person. So that is my pick for the best mech debut.
I do like that one a lot.
Okay.
My personal one is Saidain from Geki Ranger.
Okay.
Because of the entire arc that is put around that, because they had to get to that gigantic tree, so it's basically just a race to see who gets there first between the Geki Rangers and Long's crew, and of course Rio and Melee and all of them. Mm-hmm. I love this because it's like a good 4 episodes of them running through this tree and getting to...
It's like a national treasure race to the finish.
Yeah, it really is at that point. And, all the fights that happen on the way up. Saidain's debut is just so integral to the rest of the story because that's basically what causes Rio and Melee to start to listen to Long more, which turns them into, basically their full-on demonic beast forms. Mm-hmm. Genki Chopper might not be the best because he does just end up coming in too late, but I love Saidain's the gravitas of that situation end up being reflected in what happens after the fact.
Nice.
This is how this ends up affecting Rio and Melee going to Long and be like, okay, sure, fine. And that's really the turning point for the rest of the show. It's so important. Saidain itself might not have the most importance as just like an overall thing, but it's what it more symbolizes than anything else to me. I love Saidain. I just love Geki Ranger.
Nice.
So
very, very good. Can you flip that around? Is there any mech at all, or Six Ranger, or Secondary Rider, what have you, that sticks out as being a particularly bad debut?
I want to say... it's not its fault as much as it was sort of pushed. Lion Hao from Go Busters. Because they needed more sales, so they were just like, let's make this thing and introduce it into the story. And it's just like, okay.
And the marketing department is rearing its ugly head and being like, make more toys.
Let's combine it with the others. And it's just like, yeah, sure, fine. But it leaves like so little impression. So, yeah, it exists. That's great. Now what?
One thing that I will say that can really undercut a form or whatnot debut is when you introduce a new one a few episodes later.
Yeah, and this is sort of my problem with Two Kaiser coming directly after Stacy. Because there was literally one episode. Stacy, episode 7, Two Kaiser, episode 8. So it just sort of hurt Stacy's debut a little bit, although Stacy ended up sticking around a lot longer than he was meant to for the good of the show. I'm trying to think of a secondary writer where it's just like, Gotchard, Rene, Majid or something. She appeared in a movie.
Oh.
Which is, no. It's a really bad step. Because if they didn't see the movie in theaters, or they never got the chance to. They were only watching the show. She really comes out of nowhere. They basically have to re-debut her. And I think that's a real bad thing.
Because at that point, the movie is homework.
Yeah.
And you never want your stuff to become homework.
Yeah. Saber just had a problem with making you care about anybody. So any other writer that showed up in that, it's just like, yeah, okay, you're here too. Especially the brother.
I mean, a Kamen Rider who was a single dad. Interesting thing there. Didn't do anything with it.
Nope.
Sadly, his debut wasn't that good either.
They gave him a manga. So at that point, it's homework. But I mean, that's his past. It's a little more acceptable at that point because it shows how he got to where he is.
Uh-huh.
But even still.
But I think that wraps up anything I have to say, unless you got anything else.
I did have another really good one.
Okay.
Gao Ranger. As much as we don't like that show, because Jesus Christ. It's just boring.
That too.
I did love, and this is one of the things they brought over to Wild Force, and I think they did it better in Wild Force. The introduction of Silver and his mech being turned from a bad one to a good one, and they gave it a completely different design. I just think that's a really cool concept, and I like what they did there. Along with Dragon Caesar showing up in Z Ranger and the Green Ranger, of course. But yeah. Those are just some good ones.
But do let us know in the comments below what are some of your favorite debuts. Please do.
Your least favorite. Give them both.
That too.
Let's swing in the pendulum here.
Please do. But anyway, do not forget to follow us on all the things. Thank you for watching the video, and we will see you all next time.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.